Welcome to our channel. Today we're making pumpkin rolls with roasted chopped pumpkin seeds and a special kind of topping. They look like this and are fluffy, soft, and super delicious on the inside. Welcome to our channel. No, just kidding. Yeah, I'll do it in a second. I just need to finish eating. Did I just eat a roll on camera? That's how tasty they are. Shouldn't I greet the people too? For our Kiel-style pumpkin rolls, we need wheat flour, type 550 in this case, and rye flour, type 9790, and of course salt. We have chopped and ground pumpkin seeds, lightly roasted, butter, yeast, some coarse salt, which will be sprinkled on top as a topping later, and pork lard, and specifically a completely neutral one right here. Of course, you can also use one that has onion or spices in it. And let's not forget water. We'll process everything as part of a pre-dough using the autolysis method. Just a quick note about the pumpkin seeds. I chopped them up in the blender. I spread them out on a baking tray as evenly as possible and roasted them in the oven at 210 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes. During roasting, you need to shake them a bit, move them around every 2 to 3 minutes. This way, they don't get too much heat in one spot in the oven and burn. But that's easy to do. As I just mentioned, we're making a pre-dough using the Autolyse method. So what exactly is Autolyse? It's actually pretty simple. I take the flour, pour in the water, stir everything together by hand for maybe a minute or two, and then let it sit for at least 30 minutes. During those 30 minutes, the dough has time to swell. This activates a lot of enzymes within the dough itself. Later on, this will result in a very fine-poured, very fluffy texture when making the final product. That's why Autolyse is often used. It's important for this process. It's just flour and water. All the other ingredients are added separately later on. You can also let it sit for longer, even up to an hour. Some people even leave the Autolyse dough in the fridge overnight. It can be left to rest for up to 16 hours. In fact, the longer it sits, the better it gets. But you can't use this method for everything. In our case today, we're going to let it rest for 30 minutes. And that's exactly what we need now. So that's how we're going to start. The clock is ticking, so I'm putting the flour into my bowl here. Of course, this will go into the mixer later since it still needs to be kneaded. Now add the amount of water needed for this recipe. In this case, that's 320 grams. As you can see, with a good wooden spoon, you can quickly achieve the result that this comes together quite fast and mixes and combines well. And you can time it. I'm sure this won't even take 2 minutes. Now I have to pick it up with my hands, but you'll probably be able to see it even better then. So it's absorbing the water well. I'll spread it out here a bit more vigorously. And that's basically it already. It doesn't need more because it will work itself out. It really works itself all the way through. So that's it. That's all it needs. Whoops. The biggest challenge now is, how do I get this off the spoon again? And of course, I just happen to have put the spatula here for this. I just scrape it off, making sure to get all the flour with it. And now I'll just leave the whole thing here at room temperature, lick it off, and as I said, half an hour later, it goes into my kneading bowl, and then we'll continue. The Autolyse dough has now spent exactly, to be precise, 37 minutes waiting. This is what it looks like, as you can see. You can already tell that it has come together nicely. It's just right, exactly as it should be. Now I'll put it into my bowl first. Yeah, but for that I really need a much sturdier tool. Sorry. Now it's in the bowl. Now I add the salt. But I put that on one side and the yeast on the other because salt and yeast together often isn't good. There are people who do that. Maybe it works, but I don't do it. Add the butter as well, also a bit to the side, and soon all my roasted pumpkin seeds too. Because now all of this will be kneaded together. It doesn't matter if I add them later. The dough has already swelled up anyway. It's already coming along really well. Now I'll do this in my machine on medium speed, maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll have a nice dough ready. The dough was really only needed for a short time because of the autolysis. Earlier I said 5 minutes, but it actually only took 4. I'm pointing this out because you'll have the same experience. It really is a special way to make a pre-dough, and it makes beautiful rolls. This is what it looks like. Nice and fluffy, just as it should be. I'm not going to do anything with it now. I'm not kneading it at all. Just as it is, it goes back into the bowl now with a bit of flour at the bottom. And it will stay here for an hour. It's nice and warm here, so it can rise beautifully. Now it goes into a dough rest for an hour, and I'm going to take a break for an hour. The dough has now been here in the room at room temperature for an hour. As you can see, it has risen beautifully, nice and soft. That's always good for the dough. Now I'll take it out and divide the dough into individual pieces. About 90 grams per piece. That's about right. That gives you about 10 to 11 dough pieces. Here's a scale. So these are my dough pieces. I'll distribute the rest in a moment. Now I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 dough pieces here. Everyone gets a little more, then everything will be evenly distributed. Now I'm going to shape the dough pieces into rounds. That means I take them and shape them a little bit round, but not too much. It's important that I then place them with the seam side up. That's important because that's how we'll process them further later on. To show the rounding again, I curve my hand like this, make a small hollow with the other hand, and just like that I have nice round dough pieces with a neat seam in the middle. And that's how I set them down as well. Now I cover the dough pieces with a cloth and let them rest for 15 minutes to relax. After that, we'll continue processing them. The dough pieces have now had 15 minutes to rest, and of course they've continued to rise during that time, which is exactly what we want. This is how they look. You can see it beautifully. Now I'll round them again, starting with this one. And I'll do it well and tightly, so the proofing is really worked through again, pressing them out a little. Now they look like this, and I take them just as they are, have my board here with the lard, and pull them through the lard a little before placing them on my baking tray. There's something special about this tray. I cover it with a second tray right away, so they will be baked in a closed state without steam. Because I don't need it here, I have my dough pieces and they release enough water so that everything can rise nicely. Oops. Some are also very quick and were put straight onto the tray, as you just saw. The lard gives everything a wonderful flavor and a beautiful shine. As you can see, I've now distributed my rolls on the board. On the tray, of course, not on the board. As I said, now a second tray goes on top. And now I'll let the rolls rest at room temperature, let's say for about 20 minutes during the proofing stage. It depends on how warm it is at your place. They'll rise nicely now and then go into the oven at 230 degrees while still covered. I'll leave them covered for 15 minutes, then I'll remove the lid and bake them for another 5, 6 or 8 minutes depending on your oven and how the heat is distributed so they brown nicely. We'll try, of course we can't make a video during that time, but maybe when I take the lid off, we'll try to take a photo to show what they look like when they're still quite white and pale. Alright, let's continue right away. Here, just to show you briefly again, they've now reached the perfect proof. A little tip, I always like to take a bit of coarse salt and sprinkle it on top. It goes wonderfully with the lard. I do this with the first ones and I leave the last ones plain. Of course, you can also put something else on top if you like. This is how they're going to look now. Let's keep going. The pumpkin rolls have now been in the oven for 23 minutes. After 15 minutes, we took the tray out and left the rest in to brown. All I can say is, just look at them. I just tried one. Super delicious, smells amazing, and let me hold it up to the mic. Crunchy, crispy, really fresh, and this is what they look like inside. I can only recommend them, and I hope you enjoyed watching. As always, you'll find the description below our video link. Bye.